Welcome to another episode of An Exclusive on IKTV. I'm of course your host, Jeronnie, Richardson, and as I'm sure you can tell by my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather. But today we are here with two members of the St. Vincent Students Association of the University of the West Indies, and on my extreme right is Delano De Souza. He is the president of the Vincentian Students Association. And right next to me is Carissa Clark, who is the constitutional chairperson. Yes. So before we get started, first let me say I went to college with Carissa, and well, not such acquainted with Mr. De Souza. But is that name Vincentian name?
Well, yes. We hail from the Park Hill area. It's Portuguese originally. It came down from Portuguese descent, similar to De Souza, the Freitas, those sorts of surnames.
Okay. So because before we started, I keep mixing up your name and saying De Silva, but at least I got it right this time. Okay, so we're gonna start and by you telling us what exactly is Vinsa. What is the organization about?
All right. Well, the Vincentian Students Association, first of all, there are three from the University of the West Indies. There's one from each residential campus, St. Augustine, Mona, and Cavell. We represent the Cavell campus. Well, Vinsa, as we commonly call ourselves, is a welfare organization primarily. It's geared towards looking after the needs of our students who venture from St. Vincent to Barbados to pursue higher education. And one of the things that we focus on mainly is to ensure that they are not financial, because money seems to be everything lately, but we make sure that they are financially taken care of. We look out for their well-being as well. We look out for their social, religious, basically everything you could think about yourself personally. We look out for that at Cavell. We're responsible for academics as well. We represent our Vincentian students to the administration of the university, that type of thing. So that's really what we do in a nutshell, Vinsa.
Okay, so wild question, do you also help with student loans? For the young person out there who's thinking, I would like to go to Barbados to study, but I don't know how to get a loan.
Oh. Well, yeah, definitely. What we do is we really make the information available to the population, to the youngsters, the ones who want to go out and further themselves and get a higher education. We actually coming up in later next month. We actually have a career development seminar, and at that seminar we're going to be inviting the different banks, the different financial institutions to come in and really let the participants know about the prospects of loans and that sort of thing in terms of getting their finances in order to go off to university.
Okay. And Chris, before I come to Chris, there's one last thing. Your role as president, what does it entail?
Well, really it entails the overall running and management of the organization. I have an extremely talented team that make up the executive, Carissa being one of them. Really what I try to do is bring everybody together to achieve the objectives and the mandates of Vinsa. We've met before, and we've charted our course for the entire academic year, for the entire tenure. And my role is really to facilitate and help. I try to lead from the front and to make sure my team is always well supported as we go forward and striving to achieve our goals.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so Carissa, the constitutional chairperson. Okay. What does that do? Yeah,
right.
What does the constitutional chairperson do?
As constitutional chairperson, I guess you could say I'm the law. Long and short. I'm responsible for essentially being very familiar with the Constitution and being able to tell the other executive members their roles, what we can and cannot do as an association. But I also function just as an executive member who strives to ensure that our organization functions to the best of its ability. Okay. So law, executive member.
Okay, because that I was going to ask is my following question was going to be if you're studying law.
Yeah, I'm a law student at Cavell.
Okay, so in your role, right, what are some of the rules of persons who are either a member of Vinsa or wants to become a member?
Okay, well, in terms of
like bylaws.
Right, in terms of executive members to begin with, we have cultural events and activities chairperson who is responsible, according to the Constitution, for making Vinsa a home away from home. So she's responsible for ensuring that our organization gives the best possible face to all students. She shows our culture and organizes events. We have a special projects chairperson who's responsible for the events that probably wouldn't really be considered cultural, little out of the box things that we might want to do, like the lecture. Those types of things are under her portfolio. We also have treasurer, secretary, and things of that nature. But our ordinary members, as in regular members of the organization, they participate in food day because we have a lot of activities during our day because the island associations are all allotted a week of activities to kind of portray your national culture. And so while we function throughout the entire school year, Vinsa Week, the week for St. Vincent and Grenadines, is really the time when our students and members are most active in terms of participating in our lectures, different activities, parties, fun days, sports days. We do a lot of stuff. So
Church services.
Church services, not all fun.
So you cover every
Yeah, we
aspect.
cover every
of
aspect.
life. Okay, so before we get down to why we are here, which is the lecture on the 27th.
On the
22nd.
On the 22nd, sorry, Tuesday 22nd.
Right.
Being in the university in Barbados, for Vincentians, is every person a member who are Vincentians, or they have to sign up or something of that nature?
I suppose you could say that once you enter the institution, our organization gets a list of all the Vincentian students. Can't exactly revoke your citizenship. So you're
So it's not
considered a
automatic
member
entry.
of the association.
But you're not allowed to fully participate in everything unless you pay your dues, which is really a small subscription fee that you pay to the organization that helps us to undertake our objectives for the academic year.
Okay, and what are some of the accomplishments of Vinsa in, I believe you said it was 22 years? You said in
32 years.
sorry.
We were established in 1981.
Right.
Well, as you can see, 32 years is a long time. I've been at the Cable campus now. This will be my 6th consecutive year at the Cable campus, having done my undergrad and then my master's there. It's a lovely place.
I guess that's why you're president.
It's a lovely campus, and over the years I've seen Vinsa, at least over my years, I've seen Vinsa accomplish a lot. I remember when I got there in 2009 and 2010, we were voted the best island association and campus, and this is out of Jamaica, Trinidad. All those different Belize, all those different organizations, we were voted the best. We had the best week, primarily because we really showcase a lot of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the wider Caribbean at the campus. While the other organizations do put on a week, what we do is really bring pieces of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to Barbados, to the Cable campus. And so in doing so, we've been recognized over the years for really, setting that mark for our island associations. We have lectures every year. Last year, our Honorable Prime Minister did our keynote lecture. This year in October, as part of our week of activities, we've written to our ambassador to the United States, Miss Ambassador Lacelia Prince. We wanted to come to Cable and deliver a lecture on the role of diplomacy in protecting and advancing the interests of small island developing states such as St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Right. So we really try to engage our campus community on a range of things, but we also try to keep it uniquely Vincentian as well, and I think that's what we've been recognized for over the years.
Also, in terms of accomplishments, KFL is often branded as the university that produces prime ministers and leaders. That's what we pride ourselves on. A lot of the nations or the country's leaders in the Caribbean right now have passed through the halls of our institution. And so in terms of accomplishments, a lot of us can say that a lot of the leaders in the Caribbean and in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have participated in activities as Vincentian students or Vincentian lecturers at the KFL campus. Okay. That in itself is an accomplishment.
So indirectly you're telling Vincentians to go to KFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not saying it's the best campus,
but
it is.
Can't argue with that at all.
Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. You are having a lecture. It's here in St. Vincent, right?
Yes.
An opportunity lost. That is the question that you're posing for your lecture.
Well, the question is constitutional referendum,
Constitutional
reform,
right.
and opportunity loss, right? The lecture is something that the Vincent Students Association has done in Cave Hill previously. It's part of our week of activities, and it's one of the activities that we find students and young academics are very responsive to, because we try to choose topics that are very interesting and topical for young persons to gain knowledge about things that they may not necessarily know about. So when we decided that we wanted to have a lecture, we were brainstorming about a topic, and we thought, why not do the referendum which took place in 2009? And this is because although a lot of us are students at the Cave Hill campus now who have acquired a number of degrees, like my president over here, who is really advancing himself academically, a lot of us at that age in 2009 were not really able to truly receive the message of the referendum when it was taking place. And we are now being exposed to a number of young academics who find the situation of the referendum in 2009 extremely interesting. Whether they may be in sociology or law, a lot of people are interested in the referendum, primarily because it is the first of its kind to take place in the OACS.
Okay.
So we figured we have access to all of these persons who are versed in law from Cave Hill, who can give a kind of very unbiased and impartial idea of the entire situation. Why not use this as an opportunity to gain some knowledge ourselves and educate our peers?
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I believe at the Peace Memorial Hall there was a similar lecture, not to the magnitude that you were speaking, and I would like to believe that it was somehow drawn from this.
A lecture at the Peace Memorial Hall?
Yeah, they also spoke about the referendum.
Oh, I'm not sure.
The
How long ago was that?
I think it was 2012. They were speaking about it.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Well, as you know, we're only here for the summer.
Yeah. We don't get to participate in a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that must have been when we were at
right, but in terms of the reason for the lecture, that was our main reason. We really want to, as an association, strive to educate and inspire interesting discussions among young people and professionals from all over St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And in addition to that too, one of the things that came up when we were discussing and brainstorming about an idea for the topic of the lecture is the fact that this particular constitutional reform, the referendum that we had in 2009 was highly politicized. It became something, it really became something that was really with political malaise and that sort of thing. And we got the impression that really the true picture of the issues at hand were not shining through because of the whole political divide that was taking place at the time. And so we think that it's worthwhile now to have a fresh conversation on the whole notion of constitutional reform. One of the things that we spoke about with the speaker, Dr. Balkan, is that we wanted to really explore the positives, things that could be positive in the proposed constitution compared to the old one. Well, I can't say old, the current constitution. Started to compare those sort of things with what obtains not only regionally but internationally in other constitutions as well. Because right there, Dominica, we have Trinidad that is a republic and so on, and it's that type of constitutional change that has happened across the Caribbean. And we have to have a conversation about whether or not St. Vincent needs to look at going forward, whether we want to get rid of the monarchy, the current system we have, that sort of thing, replacing the Queen as the head of state. And we think these are interesting topics, these are interesting questions that we as a Vincentian public, as a Vincentian population, that we need to discuss and really digest.
Okay, so we're going now into the speaker. He is from the St. Augustine in UWI, that's
Trinidad campus.
Right?
Formerly from the Cave Hill campus, because we targeted because we're pushing not necessarily we're pushing University of the West Indies, but of course we first looked at an academic from the Cave Hill campus. He taught he taught the Cave Hill campus for a number of years, and then he moved on to the St. Augustine campus, and so that's where we know him from. We're familiar with his work, and so we decided to make that link.
Okay, so he is Dr. Christopher A. Balkan. And okay, so what are some of the things that would make him the proper person to speak at this lecture on the 22nd?
Well, the University of the West Indies is an institution that has been around for a very long time, right? Cave Hill is the oldest law faculty of all the faculties of law in the University of the West Indies. So just the fact that Dr. Balkan was a lecturer at Cave Hill, the fact that he is involved with the University of the West Indies and has encountered so many different constitutions, persons with questions, he is capable of interacting with the populace of our country and answering the questions. And he's someone that Mr. D'Souza would have actually been able to interact with, because by the time I got to Cave Hill, Balkan was already gone.
Sad day.
Actually, when I approached him about it, I had sent him an email and he responded. He said this is something that he's really interested in. He's done a lot of publication, he's done a lot of academic research and writing on constitutional issues. As a matter of fact, I think his PhD dissertation was on a constitutional issue in Guyana, which is where he's from. I think he looked at the provisions for farmers in terms of their land and that sort of thing in Guyana for his PhD dissertation. And so he's really familiar with constitutions. He's been researching this because we've been in contact with him now over a month. He's been provided with documentation and so on. And so he's really had the time to really go in and delve into these two constitutions to really give us an academic comparison, which is what we may not necessarily get because we were also toying with the idea of choosing somebody local. And aside from the whole political divide that was going on before, we really wanted somebody neutral, somebody unbiased, and to really approach it from an academic perspective and not necessarily something political.
Right. Okay. So my next question is, why did you choose a lecture instead of some other form of activity that would have people more engaged? Because I was doing some searching and stuff on problems that people would find with lectures, and I came across, well, I came across quite a bit more, but I got 10 distinct ones that people would complain about lectures, and this is not just for the average person who I would like to presume has a longer list of things, right? But the persons would say that it is passive, it doesn't engage in every learning skills, it facilitates rote learning above all else. It can be biased, it pollutes decisions, and it's boring, etc. And the list goes on. So why did you choose a lecture? Are you targeting a specific audience, or are you generally trying to reach a large mass?
In deciding to choose a lecture, like I said, this is something that we've done before. We do this every year at the Cable campus, and like I said, it's one of our better received events that we put on. And so from that, we would have realized that not only the young people, but the academics as well, and the lay person as well would have been able to relate to the sort of lectures that we've put on. And so we decided that a lecture would work, provided that we approach it in the correct way. For instance, I had a conversation with Dr. Balkan speaking about the sort of audience that we're expecting, speaking about how to relay the message and so on. And mind you, he's an accomplished lecturer. He travels all around the world delivering lectures and speeches and that sort of thing. So he knows about these commonly refuted issues pertaining to lectures. And so he also lectures at the university and to young people. And so he has to have an idea as to how to get the message across, through visual aid, that sort of thing, Right. And so we're exploring all that. We've had those sort of conversations with him, and so to make sure that he's in a position to deliver the best possible experience when this lecture comes off on Tuesday. Additionally, given all these things as well, we plan to have a very interactive question and answer segment, which sort of tides over some of the discomfort that
keeps people engaged in these activities.
So it's not going to necessarily be just a lecture, a speech. He's going to be on hand to answer your questions. He's going to respond to anything you have to ask. It's going to be a very informal discussion that's going to take place directly after he speaks.
That's one of the reasons why I don't entirely agree with the list of disadvantages of the lecture. Just because I feel like it might primarily be in-class university lectures. And those types of lectures that take place in the classroom is not the style that we are seeking to achieve on Tuesday at French's House.
7:30 p.m.
What we're trying to do is to first give an impartial view of the situation from Dr. Balkan, and then to encourage discussion.
Okay, so you just remove the bias part.
Right,
of it.
because one of the things that we think has occurred during the whole issue of constitutional reform is that as young persons, we often shy away from these types of topics.
Right.
Our parents may attempt to discuss them with us, we may see them in the newspaper and pass them over, but at some point in time, as maturing individuals, we must sit down and discuss these types of things. So while Dr. Balkan will be leading, and he will be stating his point of view and giving a true comparison, we hope to have a very interesting and in-depth discussion following his presentation to allow avoiding all of those disadvantages.
In addition to that, we've issued invitations to persons from both sides of the aisle, and so they'll be on hand to ask questions, to give insight that may not necessarily be known to us as students and as the lay Vincentian, the regular Vincentian person in St. Vincent. And so in doing so, we hope that this discussion period, this discussion segment would really bring the whole debate to life and so on, because it's important that we have, while we also want to have an impartial view, it's important that we really have both sides
of the story,
come to a head to make sure that we're not being biased in any direction. And that's one of the things that I keep stressing the whole issue of political, because I've had persons walk up to me since we've begun promoting this lecture and asking, if the government is having us put on this lecture, that sort of thing. If the opposition, there's still this whole notion of the yes vote and the no vote sort of thing, and we're trying to get rid of those sort of notions. We want it to be something. We want it to be constitutional reform and not yes or no. We want that discussion to be. We want that to be clear. This is not a political agenda. This is something to uplift the people of St. Vincent, the Grenadines, in relation to this, to exploring our prospects for constitutional reform.
Okay, you just completely answered my next question, which would have been, what would you say to the persons who have it stuck in their minds that it is a political thing? So I guess you made me having to skip it. It's not cool. But okay, so I'm bringing it down to a personal level. On that constitution, right? What was your decision at the time when it came out?
Well, honestly, I was not in St. Vincent at the time when the whole referendum was going on, but I had visited briefly on vacation, and I had seen the whole smears of yes and no and that sort of thing. So I tried to stay away from the whole political divide, and I tried to give myself the time to read the two documents and read what was being proposed and what in the amended constitution and so on. I had attended other sessions that I remember Mr. Campbell QC had put on and so on. There had been informative sessions and so on, so I tried to attend as much as possible. But I mean, personally, I don't know if the notion of wholesale constitutional reform is something that would fly, given the social and the makeup. The demographics of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the population. I think maybe if we had done a more phased approach in terms of trying to change little bit by little bit, as opposed to giving you a big document, and I can say for a fact that I've been reading this proposed constitution in the run up to this lecture, and it is not something that is easy to read by any means for somebody who's in the discipline of economics like myself. Maybe for our constitutional chair who has a passion for the law and so on, it may come easy. But for others, that might have been a potential stumbling block in terms of really understanding the issues and understanding what was being proposed. Because honestly, a lot of things that were going around at the time were revealed to be not the truth. There were a lot of half-truths, a lot of people spinning certain issues and so on, and that adding a political twist, like you said. And so that again goes back to the whole purpose of this lecture, which is to sort of separate those issues, separate and sort of put the two documents side by side and say, listen, this is possibly good, that sort of thing. This is what obtains in let's say Trinidad, or it's working for Trinidad. Can it work for St. Vincent and the Grenadines if we were to adopt that particular constitutional change, that sort of thing? So that's really what we're looking to do.
Okay, and Carissa, I have this feeling that your view differs from this.
Well, my answer differs primarily because while Delano was in the island, I wasn't old enough to to even think about going down to vote and share my views on the topic. But at that time, I think I would have still been in high school because I'm young.
Yeah.
But it's not until I went to Cave Hill and had courses in constitutional law where my lecturer literally was speaking about this referendum. And that's when I kind of, you know, someone starts talking about something and you have a flashback.
Right.
And it's almost like I'm supposed to know what he's talking about. Why can't I fully express and explain the pros and cons of the situation? And so that's when I started really going back to the Constitution, reading, looking up on the pros and cons and the differences. And actually I have to some extent, agree with Delano in the sense that a lot more discussion needed to occur on the topic before any type of voting could have taken place, just because so many people, once they hear something politicized, shy away from it. And as a result, a lot of persons who probably were interested in voting or could have made a more informed decision did not, because perhaps the information was not available to them in a manner that they were willing to receive. For me, I'm looking forward to the lecture to further hone and sharpen my opinion on the entire situation. And I'm looking forward to the discussion to truly have an impartial and informed idea of what was going on in 2009. What were the opportunities that have since passed us, and how can we bring these opportunities back to fully serve and be of use to St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Okay. I'll reveal a little information here too. Well, I too was also in primary school, and when it was presented, I looked at it, right, and I'm being very honest here. I looked at it and I was like, am I supposed to read this? So I actually, honestly, I'm giving you the honest truth.
I don't think you're alone in that regard.
I sat down and was waiting to get an explanation to tell me what is what. I mean, I couldn't make a vote and stuff. I am in secondary school. But I wanted to know what it was all about. And then it became something so political, and I was like, you know what? I don't have time with that. Let them deal with that. Yeah. So, in terms of this being on the 22nd at 7 p.m., right?
7:30.
At French's house.
Well, come 7 o'clock, be early.
Be early.
You know, we don't want, there might be a rush for seats. So make sure you come out and support the Vincent and Students Association and really get some knowledge about this whole issue of constitutional reform.
Okay, what kind of turnout are you expecting?
A very good one, actually.
Yeah, we're expecting a very good. We've sent out invitations, like I said, we've been in contact with several persons. We've done ads, we've placed in the newspaper and that sort of thing. And because we really want the audience on Tuesday to be representative of St. Vincent. We want it to be a diverse. We don't just want the white cross section. We don't just want it to be the lawyers and those who have a vested interest in constitutional reform. As a matter of fact, we all have a vested interest in the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and so that is not a message that we want to give off to portray to the people. We want you to come out and really listen and try to make sense of this whole notion of constitutional reform.
Okay, on closing, is there anything in specifics that may not have been in any of the ads, that you would like to tell the Vincentian audience, those that are looking at an exclusive on IKTV right now?
Well, I wouldn't be the president of Vinsa if I didn't take this opportunity to really appeal to the private sector of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to get on board with the Vincent and Students Association, not just of Cave Hill, but of the other campuses and organizations of this nature. We've been sending out different sponsorship requests and so on for the lecture, as well as other events that we're going to be having that are really geared towards giving back to St. Vincent. And this sort of response where we know the economy isn't as buoyant as we would like it to be now, but at the same time, we're really urging the private sector to get on board with Vinsa and really lend your support financially and otherwise towards helping us to achieve our goals and objectives for this upcoming academic year.
Okay. And Ms. Clark, anything from you?
I have to reiterate what our president just said. Just because the Vincentian Students Association is seeking to truly enhance and help in terms of the welfare of our students.
Okay.
And we're really encouraging anyone who can to come on board and work along with us. And along with that, we're encouraging them to come out to the lecture at 7:30 at the French's House on Tuesday.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking to Carissa Clark and Delano de Souza. And they are from the Vinsa, which is the Vincentian Student Association in Barbados, Cape Hill campus. It was a pleasure having you in studio.
Thank you.
Yes.
How many us?
Thank you for having us.
So, alright guys, so it is for a lecture that is on Tuesday, the 22nd of August at 7:30 p.m. at French's House in Kingstown. And the guest speaker would be Dr. Christopher Balkan. Sorry. Okay, so guys, you don't want to miss it. You want to get more information about the constitutional reform. This is your opportunity to go and be informed. All right, you've been looking at another episode of An Exclusive. I am your host, Jeronnie Richardson. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeronnie_Zilan. Thank you for viewing.
To him because he knows what's best. In fact, no demon or form of evil would ever test. It would just lay low because he is the bread of life, Alpha and Omega, the former of my Genesis, the continuation of my Sega. In my pot, you know he be that sweet, distinct kind of flavor.